Good morning everybody, it's the 4th of March 2015. It's about 4:30 in the morning and I just feel like a cold drink, so... Okay, what am I going to get? Okay, I'm going back to the room and I'm going to have this. We've got a walking tour of Quebec today, so that'll be really, really good. I shouldn't talk too loud, everyone's still asleep. It snowed quite a bit last night, as you can see. It's nice and cold out there. I'm showing people we're in the freezing cold. A lot of people back home have never seen snow, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice snow too, right?
It's good snow, it is.
Nice fluffy snow. But it's not, you can't make snowballs or snowmen out of it. It's too powdery. There are different kinds of snow. Maybe they don't know that. It's the same lot.
What the heck? I think Quebec is North America's only fortified city.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to be careful, right? I'd slip. Look what I'm walking on. Here's a bakery where Jonathan and myself are going to have some breakfast. Should be really good. We had breakfast. This is my breakfast: 2 croissants, a lemon and poppy seed muffin and a brownie with a Pepsi. And Jonathan's got coffee soup and a
Croque framboise.
A
raspberry thing. I don't know.
Alright. So that should be really good.
Bowl of cappuccino.
That's the biggest cappuccino I've ever seen. It's probably cheaper than the one my dad bought at the airport as well.
It's like 4 or something.
Yeah,
Not
cheaper.
So bad.
Out of the way. Yeah. Look at that view. And Jonathan is about 100 feet ahead of me. What you're looking at is the Chateau Frontenac. Probably Quebec's most famous landmark.
That's where we were just there, eh?
Yeah. That's a good bakery. Hey, Frosty.
How are those croissants?
They were nice. Oh, I have some.
They won the award for the best croissants in Quebec.
They were really good. Nice and fluffy, not too greasy. We're at the tourist place and they've lost our reservation for the walking tour. I don't know how they did that. Are they trying to find a tour guide? If not, I don't know what we're going to do. We might have to do something else today. Jonathan's looking at a helicopter tour, which would be really cool.
Yeah, so comment what you think, whether we should go on the helicopter tour or not.
Yeah.
We take the 15 to 18 minute one that goes over the city. And so we could see all the sights in the city in Old Quebec and the St. Lawrence from the sky. So let us know what you think.
Leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, okay? Let us know. They managed to find us a tour guide, so at 10:30 we're going on a walking tour of Quebec. Here's McDonald's in Quebec City. It's meant to be like red and yellow, not green and gold.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Blends in, no? Color coordinated. And M on it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's called a McCrape here, but it's a McGriddle in Ontario. But it's got maple syrup infused into this bun thing, so it's like a pancake with sausage and egg and cheese. So it
sounds really gross.
It's really good. It's good. It's my favorite. I get them in Ontario all the time.
Here's a cool name for a shop. I think it's like a clothing shop.
Louis Street in this direction. This is Saint Anne Street, and this street goes to Saint John Street. If you look to a map of 1640, you will find these three streets, the same directions, the same name. They've been there for 400 years almost. Around that place we see buildings from the three periods. These two buildings right there were built during the French period. Look at the name of that restaurant, 1640 was built. Obviously this is not the original building, reminding us that in 1759 they were all destroyed during the conquest, especially these the British had cannons on the other side of the river and bombarded the city, and these buildings were destroyed. I show you some pictures I have, picture of drawings of that era. French period, that church right there. Excusez-moi. That church was built around 1800 during the British period. This is the first Anglican cathedral built outside the British Isles at the time. It is still an Anglican cathedral, and knowing that there is only about 120 parishioners, we say. I'm just trying to find my words. It's my first tour 2015. Parishioners, we say that, yes? 120 English-speaking parishioners and only 30 French-speaking. There is a French-speaking Anglican Mass here on Sunday morning. Yeah, only 30 parishioners, I would say. So French period, originally built during the British period, and these two buildings were built during the Canadian period. This is a chateau, a castle. This is your hotel. Never been a castle in itself. It was built in the chateau style, Chateau de la Loire style. We were in France, but has been an hotel forever, since 1892 when it was opened by the Canadian Pacific Company. They opened different hotels along the new railroad from Pacific to the Atlantic. That one was on their road. And not the gas station, but the train station was supposed to be in the lower town, right there, but it was finally built on the other side of the city. In the same style, by the way, if you see a building looking like this is a train station, not the Gauche Palace train station, I would say. And this was built by the same architect of the Parliament of Quebec, one of the nicest buildings we have in Quebec. Beyond, outside the walls, was built by the same architect around 1880. This now belongs to the government of Quebec. It's a Minister of Finance, something like that. It used to be the courthouse before they built a new one in the 80s. Okay, Canadian, British, and French. We're all set. Now let's meet that guy over there. Champlain, Samuel de Champlain, Champlain Lake, upstate New York. The same guy. He was there 1 year after founding Quebec City. Let's meet Champlain. Okay? Any questions?
Yes.
Are you here for a couple of days? At least one night?
Yes.
Okay. If you have a chance, it's for you. It's for you as well. This small museum, I'm just wondering whether it's open or not. They used to close and reopen during winter time, but this museum will explain all the battles here in Quebec. The 5 battles we had in Quebec. They won once, they tried a couple of times before. To get there, it's nice, it's about only 30 minutes. And by the way, this monument, which is quite a new, modern monument right there, was put there in 1985 when Quebec City became a World Heritage City. So we've been a World Heritage City for about 30 years now, for 2 reasons. Quebec City is the only fortified city north of Mexico. And the first reason was this is the cradle of French America, more or less. So that was the 2 reasons why we were given that specific status here. Okay, Champlain. Pronounce it the French way, Champlain. That guy stopped here in Quebec City for 3 reasons. First was the river. It used to be in New Brunswick for a while. So he was there for fur trade business, beaver pelt, fur trade business more or less. Then they decided to move inland, and they found that nice place here. Quebec means, by the way, in Algonquin language, where the water is narrow. So we start from the Atlantic and get into a funnel, and this is the tip of the funnel. We have only 0.6 miles, 1 kilometer wide here. The reason why he stopped here, he saw that nice place, a very strategic place. So they had, the river was really narrow, so to control the traffic on the river, nice place to be. Then you have that cliff, the second river, that cliff. So we can establish a fort on top of the cliff and once again control and see the enemies around and controlling the traffic. The first reason was established here for fur trade business. They had found gold in South America, no gold here. The only gold they had was beaver pelt. So Champlain established here. Look at the hat he had. That was the reason why they needed these fur pelt here in Europe at that time. Really popular goods, these hats. Felt. These were not pelt hats, but these were felt hats. Beaver pelt turned into felt, more or less. So very expensive and popular goods in Europe. Came here for that. And by the way, they had beavers in Northern Europe, in Finland, for instance, Scandinavia. But the winter are shorter in that area. So the pelt are of lesser quality, more or less. Okay. So now we have beaver pelt here in Quebec, in Canada, generally speaking. So three reasons: the river, the cliff, and the fur trade business, more or less. Let me show you something.
It's interesting.
Okay.
I can't see.
The eye seems to be open. I'm not sure though.
It's like a maze.
Yeah.
It's like a labyrinth down there.
Okay, where are our friends? They're right there. Jonathan is right there. Okay, good. Let me show you an image.
Foundations and
Exactly. The first thing that was built here was a fort built by Champlain a long time ago. Established on top of the cliff. Small fort. Then it was enlarged when the first governor, Champlain was not governor, he was only the first ruler of Quebec City, and when the first turned the river. The bridge goes from the north shore to the island of Orleans. There is no bridge here from the north to the south shore. The bridge are in this direction. About we don't see there's a curve in the river, so we don't see the bridge from here. If you go to Levi's or on the ferry boat, you'll see those bridges, the old one and the new one. This is Island of Orleans. Okay, look at the bridge. It goes to a flat portion of the island. Then there is a cliff there. And that cliff is exactly that line between the yellow and green section. This is a fault. We had a fault somewhere in California, the San Andreas Fault. We have our fault here as well. This is a Logan Fault. The Logan Fault is right on this location, in line with the island of Orleans, and in line with the cliff, not that one, the one on the other side of the city. We are on a promontory here, and this is exactly the northern edge of the Appalachian. Appalachian starting from here and going to Gaspésia and eastern Canada and going down to Georgia, southern United States, more or less. So this is exactly the place. We're now in the Appalachian. If you go in the lower town on this side of the city, you're no longer in the Appalachian. Okay? And these mountains, by the way, the Laurentians or the Canadian Shield are the oldest mountain in the world. They were originally, you see now they're pretty flat. We see Mont Saint-Anne. In fact, we don't see Mont Saint-Anne, or more or less just beyond the bridge in this direction. These mountains were as high as the Himalayas when they were formed 1 billion years ago, long time ago. And they all flattened out along the time. The Great Lakes to the Atlantic. So the tide is going down. In 6 hours from now, you come back, you'll see the water flowing in the opposite direction. It's very easy to observe the water flow during winter time. We have these ice blocks moving in this direction now, and they will be moving in the other direction in 6 hours from now, or even before. Now it's going low tide. It will go high tide a bit later. This is fresh water. Not only cold water, it is fresh water as well. Even though we're not too far, we're very far from the Atlantic. This is fresh water, but you should know that beyond that island of Orleans, which is about 20 miles long, about 35 kilometers, then the water becomes to be brackish, and we have salt water about 2-3 hours from here, more or less. Okay, so this is fresh water. This is quite unusual to have high and low tides with fresh water. In fact, the tides varies from 12 to 15 feet every day. And we have the highest tide in spring and fall time can vary from up to 25 feet. So you see that street where the cars are right now? We have water in the street during the spring and fall highest tides, more or less. Okay? Any questions? You see the name of that guy, Montcalm. Montcalm. He was the French general during the battles on the Plains of Abraham. On the other side of the monument, there is another name, Wolfe. He was a British general. This is a reconciliation monument, more or less. Lord Dalhousie was the guy who decided, yes, it would be a good idea maybe to try to commemorate that conquest. He decided to put both names. It was when you have a French city and you want to commemorate a British victory, it's a better idea to put both names then. We put the French and the British general on the same monument, more or less. Okay, the idea of that monument is that 1759, now let's return to 1759. Around at the end of June, the first warships showed up in the St. Lawrence River at the tip of the island of Orleans. First British ship. In about 2 weeks, there was about 150 ships here in the St. Lawrence River. And now they installed their cannons on the other side of the river, and they began to bombard the city, around July 12th. More than 50,000 cannonballs and fireballs were sent over the city in 2 months, from mid-July to mid-September, more or less. Okay, during these 2 months, 3 months I would say, until mid-September, when that battle took place on the Plains of Abraham, both the generals, Montcalm and Wolfe, thought that the final battle would occur between Quebec City and the Montmorency Fall, right in where is the bridge we just saw to the island. Between there and here, that would be a natural place to have a final landing and battle at the sea level, more or less. But we're now mid-September and Wolfe is still trying to find a place and to win. He lost about 500 men at the end of July, a big battle with the French. Montcalm won that first battle. Wolfe lost 500 people, were killed more or less. Mid-September now he has a choice to make. He knows that the river will freeze very soon. It takes about 2 weeks from here to the Atlantic, a few more weeks to return to England. So it's now time to think, to leave or to win. So they found a path going to the top of the Plains of Abraham, going up the promontory on the west side of the city, not the east side of the city. They had found that. Some traders told them. There is many versions, obviously. During 3 months, can you imagine all the intelligence that was around? So they learned a lot. So they found that path. And on that morning of September 13, 1759, at 8 o'clock in the morning, there was 4,500 soldiers, professional soldiers, all British, on the Plains of Abraham, and Montcalm was sleeping out there near the falls of Montmorency, was awakened and was told that you should come, there is people waiting for you on the Plains of Abraham. So he showed up, they ran for their life or for their death more or less, and they met on the Plains of Abraham, and the battle lasted about 20 minutes. We all know that in Quebec, that the battle between the French and the British lasted only 20 minutes. Knowing that there was a 3 months siege before, they were all tired, exhausted. They fought in 20 minutes. It was all over. Wolfe died on the Plains of Abraham during that 20-minute time slot, more or less. Montcalm was wounded and died the day after. They became a hero for that reason, more or less. And then, from that moment, Quebec City became a British city, more or less. Officially, it became a city in 1763, 4 years later, when they signed the Treaty of Paris. But the battle was lost that morning of September 13th, 1759. About 4,500 soldiers on both sides. The British were professional. They had come twice before. They tried to get the city. They lost and returned. That time they were ready. For one good reason. The 13 colonies along the East Coast, there were about 1.5 million people living there, trapped between the Atlantic and the Appalachians. And there was a huge New France empty territory, more or less, only 60,000 people versus 1.5 million. They wanted that territory, and to get that territory, they have to take the capital. So they came to Quebec City, 30,000 professional soldiers were here, and they fought against half professional militias, native as well, and they won that day of September 13, 1759.
You're saying the British had more soldiers, but they actually brought over 4,500 that like came up onto the Plains of Abraham?
There was soldiers, there was sailors as well, there was a different type of people. There were 30,000 people
Altogether.
altogether, exactly, yeah. And they had only, can you imagine, they bombarded the city for about 2 months, mid-July to mid-September. More than 50,000 cannonballs and fire bombs, only using about a couple of dozens of cannons on the other side. Every 2-3 minutes they can shoot a bomb on the other side. So with only a few dozen of cannons, they made all these destruction over the city. Even though they had around 1,800 cannons on some warships in the river, they only used those one at the top in Levi's near that church we see there. You see there is a steeple there. The cannon was there. There was a redoubt there, the Burton redoubt that was right there, and they bombarded from that spot, more or less. Yes. Okay. Any questions? Then let's go in this direction. New York, in the same style, Art Deco style. We only need about 84 more floors to get as high as the entire building, but it was built the same style. And the British in 1759. Now it's the French consulate here in Quebec. It was sold for a private house. We'll begin private residence later this summer. I guess they will move to a different place. Look, we now see it really good. It was done on purpose. Look at the stucco, the white stucco, and the rock stone. They did it on purpose, so removing the stucco or leaving it this way, so we can see the rock stone covered by stucco. Very good example of French architecture at that time, or French use at least. Aux anciens Canadiens, the old Canadians, I would say, it's the name of a novel of a French writer, not a French, Canadian writer, born around 1790, approximately. So this is the oldest house in Quebec, 1677. I told you that 90% of the houses in Quebec were built after 1800. This is one of the few examples of houses built during the French period. There's only
get destroyed.
There's only 14 in the upper town and 6 in the lower town.
Wow.
What is your question?
It didn't get destroyed with cannonballs.
Exactly, for some pure coincidence. They were protected by, the Ursulines are right there. They were protected by Ursulines maybe. I don't know why. Only 14 in the upper town, 6 in the lower town. Okay.
It's not the cannonball, in fact.
Okay.
It's not a real one.
A few things about that small wall there. There's a small wall. If for those who went to the Parliament of Quebec beyond the walls, now the French wall was built on that side of the city, the west side. The British walls were built in this direction. Originally, the French wall was right in line with that wall, right crossing all these houses. There was no house, obviously. And then they expanded in this direction. Look at this. I told you that the British brought good architects here. Okay? The French had good cartographers. Look at this map of North America made around 1688, long time ago. No GPS. The guy would simply canoe along the coast and draw that map. Nice map. When you're a French cartographer making that drawing in 1688, you have to draw the photo of the capital of North America at that time, Quebec City. Let me show you the enlargement here. Okay? This was Quebec City in 1688. We recognize that Chateau Saint-Louis, you know, the ruins under the boardwalk, was right there. And the cathedral was there, the French one is right there. The Seminary of Quebec, we'll see that later. All the major institutions were already there in 1688, a long time ago. Look at that mill there. That mill is on that small hill there, called the Cavalier of the Mill. Cavalier was the highest spot in town at the time. Now it's the citadel within the walls. At the time it was that place. There is no more mill, now there is a small park, but that location is right there. And they built a wall around there about, let's see, 30 years later. When the British came for the first time trying to to conquer the city here. Nice picture of 1688. The guy name was Franklin, not Franklin, but Franklin, F with a Q-U-E, not a K, Q-U-E instead of K. Jean-Baptiste Franklin. He wanted to become a priest. He studied at the seminary, then he decided to become a cartographer. He was a good artist. Fortified city, the only fortified city north of Mexico. Look at the fortification history, more or less. All the different colors tells you when that wall was built. A rough summary would tell you that the French wall on the west side in this direction was built by the French against the British, even though they lost the city. And those walls on this side of the city were built by the British once they became the rulers of Quebec City against the American. They had built a citadel here, added some walls along the cliff, but the American never won, never came back after the first invasion of 1775. You know, the original wall was right there. You know, the small wall there is right there. The red line is that small wall right there. It was right in line with the old French wall that was moved in this direction about 40 years later. Okay? It's a complex history. So if you're asking me when was built that and that, it depends. There is many answers to the same question. Okay?
Gotcha.
This was, I told you that at the beginning. This is Place of Armes and the three original streets of Quebec. Saint John, Saint Anne, and Saint Louis Street. This is Saint Louis Street, one of the oldest streets of Quebec. Was there from 1640. Now let me show you something. If we go to the street there and you look in this direction, you'll see a gate. A gate. If we have walls around the city, we need gates to get in and get out. Obviously, this was the Saint Louis Gate. Before they destroyed that gate and built a new one, a larger one. And I forgot to mention something very, very important. On the boardwalk name is Dufferin. Dufferin was a British governor. I think we'll move to somewhere in this direction. I'll tell you about Dufferin. And that guy was the guy who said, because when he got here, people were destroying the walls. The British troops had left and they were about to destroy the walls. He said, no, you should keep those walls. This city will become a nice tourist destination in the future. He had a very good idea. Let me explain that more in detail. That's funny. At the Ursuline Convent. Let's go turn the left. From the right, cut stone. This is limestone. This is not greenish sandstone. This is limestone. And this is a good example of rough stone covered by, not crepe at this time, the roofs are different. This is a steep roof. And this is a mansard roof, exactly. Mansard roofs were prohibited during the French period. Too much wood, when it burns too long. So were prohibited and then were reintroduced by the British later when the fire department was of better quality, I would say. So mansard roof on British style and the French style with some classic revival elements around the doors and gates. Doors and windows, sorry. Okay, now, you see that? Well, wouldn't mind. Yeah, we're going there. The Ursuline Convent, exactly. Look at the plank. You see that plank just in front of the doors? This is to prevent ice blocks to fall on the street. Everyone in Quebec knows that in in springtime, a bit later, I would say in a few weeks from now, you don't walk on the sidewalks. Too dangerous. You can get some ice blocks on your head. Very dangerous. It can kill you, more or less. So they put that. It's a regulation, but sometimes they go over or under that plank. Okay. Now let's go inside the convent.
Oh, inside. It's nice and warm.
My kneecaps are frozen shut. I literally can't bend my kneecaps.
Because I cannot feel my legs.
Your legs? You can cut the legs here. Okay. This is the Ursuline convent. The Ursulines got here in 1639, I told you. The founder was Marie de l'Incarnation, Mary of the Incarnation, I would say. Okay? Word-to-word translation. It was opened up that time for French and native girls at the time. That woman was spectacular, I would say. She became a nun when she was 32 years old. She She, at the age of 7, how old are you?
9.
You're 9. At the age of 7, she had a vision, a dream, where she saw God inviting her to become a nun. All her life she wanted to become a nun then. At the age of 16, she asked her parents, I would like to go to the Ursuline. She would live at that time in Tours, T-O-U-R, in France. And the Ursuline convent headquarters was in Tours, France. Parents said, no, we'll find a man for you. No, you're too rebel to do that. No, we'll find a man for you. She got married, she got a son. When the son was 6 months old only, the father died. So she moved to her own sister's home, and she lived there for about 10 years, until the age of about 30 years old, 32. When the son was about 10 years old, then she decided to leave her son with her own sister. Claude was her name, and she went to the Ursuline and became a nun at the age of 32 years old. 7 years later, in 1639, she moved to Quebec City. The goal was to open a school for young girls, French and native girls, and she never returned to France, never got back to France. She died here in 1672 at the age of about 72 years old. She was born in 1599, and she was a smart woman. She learned 4 native languages. She wrote grammars, dictionaries, kind of things. She was a smart woman, really involved in the colony here. And during these 40 years, by the way, the son at the age of 20 approximately, he became a monk, became a priest himself. So during all these years, the son never came here, and she never returned to France. During these 40 years, they exchanged letters. You can buy these letters, correspondence. They corresponded during 40 years approximately. And this is really a gold mine for a historian. Can you imagine all they say about living in Quebec City between 1639 and 1672? They exchanged letters for years and years. At the time, writing a letter means I write my letter now. My son will get my letter in a few months from now, maybe this year, maybe next year. He will answer, reply, and so it takes time. It's not email, instantaneously email, obviously. Okay. The person, now, in 2015, the situation is different. Now we are living in a large complex, and now there's about, I should update my numbers, but last summer there was only 50 smart women living here. There are only 55 now. After many years, that school opened up. My sister came here years ago. Now there are only 55 nuns living in that large complex, and they made a move last summer. At the end of last school year, in June 2014, they passed their educative mission to a private corporation. After 375 years, working hard to keep that, they passed that to a private corporation. They made a smart choice to make sure their mission will survive. Now they're only 55 years, between 73 and 105 years old, maybe 106, 104, I'm not sure the exact number. And clearly, if you walk on the street and you see an old woman smiling, definitely it will be an Ursuline. They're all living around here, they look all smart and nice people, but they're only 55.
Do they still wear the habits?
No, not at all. No, it all changed. They were cloistered nuns until Vatican II in the 60s. So if we had a chance to go inside their chapel, which is probably closed now, we would see that. Let me show you that.
I was wondering about that when you said it was cloistered. That looks like
Exactly. They were cloistered until 1960 or something like that. And if we had a chance to go inside the church, we would see that. We would see that. Now we're in a different direction, but this is the altar that was designed and built and made by the finest wood carver of New France. He spent 10 years in that chapel doing that. And the nuns here used to make needleworks and gold leaf works as well. This is all covered by gold leaves there. And so the pulpit canopy, and the altar spent 10 years working on that. His name was Pierre Noël
I would translate to Peter Christmas, Pierre Noël Levasseur, finest French carver. And then gold threads. They also used to make some priest vestments with gold thread, more or less. You could see these pieces of art in their museum. The museum is probably open this week, I would say. We could check the hours, the opening hours. This piece is about 8 feet long by 3 feet. It's a huge piece, all made by hand, to here. So they used to specialize in that kind of work here. And you can see that at their museum. In the 19th century, in the 1800s, the young girls studying here used to work 1 hour a day. Needlework was required. They had to work needlework here at their income.
This is the smallest house in Quebec.
I still couldn't afford it.
It's probably worth $1 million at least. It's like stuck between two buildings. I'll try to walk back and you can see it. That's where it is. Oh. Whoa! That's why you don't walk on the sidewalk, apparently.
Yes, you gotta show it context with the other houses.
Yeah. Dogs.
Now, if we have a chance, there's a donkey living here. It's not a joke. There's a donkey just beyond that stone wall right there. The donkey is living on the island of Orleans during summertime, and here in the upper town. Hello.
Oh boy.
This is a horse. So this is not a dog.
An Irish wolfhound.
At the Y one time. Yeah, me and you saw one at the Y.
Okay. So now this is not a donkey. This is a dog. The donkey is right there, and this is a holy donkey. A woman who is a friend of the bishop of the Anglican community here has a donkey. She likes donkey for some reason. This is a holy donkey. She used to walk the Compostelle path in Europe. How do you call that?
With her donkey?
Yeah, with not that donkey, but another one. And that kind of donkey has a cross on their back. It's a real cross. It's a hairy cross. It's not. It was not. It's nature, more or less. That church, we now see the front of the church we saw from the other side when we started. That church was the first building built in the Palladian style. This is the architecture here. Palladian style refers to symmetry, first of all. Look at this. Pure symmetry between. This is also Palladian style. Palladio was an Italian architect, or Italian. And we also call that style the classic revival, more or less. So we see some elements of the classic revival. Symmetry from one vertical axis. Then you have these arches, very typical to arches as well as windows. Those windows are rounded, curved, I would say. This is typical to Palladian style. As well, we have these pilasters. These are not columns. These are pilasters, imprinted columns on the facade, more or less. And we have this is the columns right there with the Ionic pilasters. And you see that now the windows are Palladian windows, and we have what? The big pediment there, the big triangle. The original triangle was, the roof originally was less steep. It was changed because the snow would stay on the roof, and then they would have some water infiltration, so they raised the roof about 20 years after building that point. On the scale model, we see the original steepness, and this is the new one with two rounded windows. I think it's closed. It's closed most of the time, but during summertime it's open. It's totally different. When you get to the... Oh, I just forgot to mention one thing before saying that. The steeple here, the bell tower, is 1 meter, 3 feet higher than the Catholic cathedral bell tower. It was made on purpose, okay?
Closer to heaven.
Yeah, and King George III, is that correct? George, yeah, exactly, gave the parishioners here gave a nice gift when it was inaugurated in 1800. A nice communion set, old silverware, nice stuff. You can see that during summertime when it's open. And There is no gold in there. Are you all Catholic, by the way? Born Catholic, as we say? You don't know?
I was.
You was? As I was, in fact. And I went to that church with Catholic school out there. But this is totally different. Anglican is very, very more humble, I would say. Wood. For a long time, a guy there used to say that the wood would come from the Windsor forest in England. But they just found some invoices years ago, some historians found invoices of the 1800, and the wood would come from about 20 kilometers from here, from a small forest around Quebec City. So no, it was a legion, more or less.
In
Yes.
New Brunswick, some of the finest antique furniture is made out of mahogany, and it was used as ballast on ships.
Yeah.
Offloaded in St. John, and cabinet makers were resident in St. John, and then started making furniture.
What we see here about ballasting the boats, when they used to build those ships from Quebec, going back to England, and coming back, there was two ways to ballast the boat. Using those bricks. The yellow bricks we see here in Quebec City, these are painted, but there are many houses built with yellow bricks, what we call here the Scottish bricks. They were using those bricks to ballast the boat coming back from England to here. Two ways to ballast the boat, bricks, so they would dump the bricks on the shore, would pick by the people for free, building their homes. Second way to ballast the boat, they stop in Ireland, they fill in the holes with starving Irishmen, and would come here in Quebec City. Quebec City was the only port that remained open to immigration in the 1800s. They closed New York and Boston for all the illness coming from these countries. But Quebec City was open. In 1832, we had 12% of the population of Quebec City died over that summer of 1832 because of this cholera episode here in Quebec, imported by those British. So in that year of 1832, they opened up an island, a quarantine island. Just beyond the island of Orleans, there is a small island called Big Island, Grosse Île in French. Grosse Île, Big Island, was a quarantine island that was closed only in 1847. It became a animal quarantine island. So yes, ballasting the boats with mahogany is quite special, in fact. Okay, now let's go to the Catholic Cathedral and to the Seminary of Quebec. That was my school. When I was a teenager in the 70s, I was there. Only boys and the girls were right there. So now as a guide, Ursuline means a lot to me. It was totally different in the 70s. It was totally different at that time. Okay?
How do you say donkey?
Donkey, c'est un âne. A-N-E. A-N-E. Un âne. A avec un accent circonflexe. Founder of the Ursuline convent, of the Ursuline, and the founder of that building, the white one we see in the corner, the Seminary of Quebec, both were canonized this year. Okay? It was the 375th anniversary of the Ursuline as well, the 350th anniversary of the parish. Originally that parish would go from Quebec City down to Louisiana of today. Big one. And the fifth president we had, we were given a holy door. There is 7 holy doors in the world, 6 in Europe, 4 in Rome, 1 in France, 1 in Santiago de Compostela in Spain, and there is now 1 in Quebec City, right between that building and there. We'll see that door, which is closed now. Attention. Closed for forever, I would say. It was open for 1 year, from January 1st last year to December 28th, 2 months ago. Now it was closed and sealed, and it will reopen one day for a next event, commemoration of something. In 25 years, 30 years, 50 years, we don't know. The next Pope will decide. and it attracted a lot of people to Quebec City in 2014. Now let's go inside that big church so we can have a warm spot. And let's talk about François de Laval, the founder of the seminary.
It's a big church.
Et cette montée-là, tu passes à travers des choses difficiles. Pas cher de dire qu'on devrait.
It was opened out, it's sealed for, as I told you, 25, 30 years. The next pope will decide, or the next pope will decide.
The brown door? That's
That door right there, under the small roof there. So now it's closed. And yeah, and now we're going inside the inner yard of the Seminary of Quebec. Told you this is the oldest, the largest complex here. Let me show you that before we get inside. This is exactly what New France looked like at the time. Rough stone, covered by stucco. Knowing that these buildings, once again, even though they were originally built in 816 something, they all burnt last time around 1815. All rebuilt, adding one more floor at each time. Now you should know that we don't see that now. There is snow covering black, dark lines in the pavement, but there is dark line around the goal right there. And that was the original house of the first farmer in Quebec City, 1617. Established here. His son-in-law was Coward. You know Coward Couillard was Guillaume Couillard. The first was Louis Hébert was there. When he died, her daughter sold the house to Monseigneur de Laval, the founder of this institution. Then he began to build that, not that wing, but that one right there. Let me show you that. That was the first building built here when they destroyed and the original small house and built that. And then came my ancestor Robert Lévesque was here between, we know I just found about 15 years ago his biography. He was here between May and October 1677. Spent a few months here building that wing there. So Robert was here before me because that was my high school in the 70s. From 71 to 76 I was here. And now there are students clearly. No, it's a spring break now. It's probably closed this week. But normally we would see some people playing hockey here and basketball during summertime. So this is still a private school for boys and girls now. And the University of Laval, who moved to the suburb in the 60s, came back here around 1993. And now these wings, 1, 2, 3, are the architecture school of University of Laval. Architecture school. Yeah. In fact, that was that ice within.
Ice,
Yeah, exactly. That chapel, which they used to call it the outside chapel, was desacralized in 1993. Originally, the remains of Bishop Laval were in there and moved to the cathedral about 20 years ago. And this is exactly the last place where I confessed myself. Long time ago. No more sins. No more sin since then, I would say. Okay.
Me too.
You, huh?
Me too.
You too. Okay. The same year, probably.
71.
It was 73 in my case. Okay. 2 more years. By the way, when I was a teenager in the 70s, there was, let's say, half priest and half not priest being teachers here. Obviously, when you have a bunch of priests working in this institution, you need nuns to take care of them. So that, not that building, but that one, the gray one down there, was the Dominican sister convent. So there was many to take care of all this place. Notre Dame sisters, not as far as I know. They're in Montreal, probably. Charity Sisters of Notre Dame, maybe, or are they the same, or Charity Sisters? No, Notre Dame Sisters. I don't specialize in sisters and nuns. of this is all renovated and rebuilt. An original foundation of these houses found on that location. And just left if you want open air so you can enjoy them. That wall was a dirty wall, I would say, about 15 years ago. Then Quebec City invited some artists from Lyon, France, the city of Lyon, France, and they know how to deal with what we call a trompe-l'œil, fooling the eye technique. It looks like 3D, but it's not 3D, obviously. And this is we call that mural the mural of the Québécois, the people living here in Quebec, the mural of the Québécois. It's a very good summary of the history of Quebec City. That's how to say that. It first introduces to the seasons. Look at the winter. Now you see the winter, but in summertime we don't see that ice and snow on the roofs. Now we see the colors of the autumn. The peak of the colors is around mid-October. If you come around mid-October, you have all the mountains colored around the city. We have a really rough summary of the architecture in Quebec. Look at the red roof, a mansard roof, steep roof, tin roof, and different type of roofs. We see them on the Royal Place out there. You see the fortifications, and then you see about 16 characters. Let's review a few ones. The one at the top with the globe there, on the left, Jacques Cartier, the founder of Canada. He was here before Champlain, but only spent one winter out of our time. Was not prepared to spend a full winter here. Returned, never came back. The guy on the left with the beer mug, the first Minister of Justice here in Quebec during Louis XIV. He's the guy who had a good idea. He said we should bring girls to the colony. There is not enough girls here. So they sent daughters of the king. He used to call these girls the daughters of the king because the king would pay the dowries of these poor girls coming mostly from Paris, would get here, and they got married in 5 weeks, the average of 5 weeks. And you remember Robert, my ancestor, married Jeanne. Jeanne Le Chevalier was a daughter of the king who got here between 1663 and 1673. About 900 daughters of the kings were sent to Quebec City, not to New France, I would say. He's the guy who had the idea. He was also a businessman. He had a brewery, the first brewery in New France. He was a businessman and a politician, kind of thing we don't see today, right? Okay. The guy with the message there was Frontenac, Chateau Frontenac was the guy. He was one of the major governor of New France. He resisted to an attack from Boston. He's now reading the message saying that I will answer with the mouth of my cannons. The guy was scared and returned to Boston, more or less. And a few more, maybe Champlain. Obviously the green suit right in the middle is Champlain with the fake face, the fake facade as well. And you saw the guy, there is a guitar player. You should know that guy. He's a famous Québécois. He died in 1988. Félix Leclerc is a folk singer. This guy used to live on the island of Orleans. He was known in France as an artist before being known here in Canada in the 50s and the 60s. And on his left, on his right, I would say on my left, look at the guy in the dark suit there. It's Lord Dufferin. It was Frederick Temple Blackwood, said Lord Dufferin. He's the guy important to Quebec City, as I told you. And a few more maybe. At the top right, two nuns. Marie de l'Incarnation, founder of the Ursuline. And the other one is the founder of the first hospital here in Quebec. They arrived the same year, and she founded the Hôtel Dieu, the hospital here in Quebec, still in operation in fact. Bishop Laval in the red suit, and a few more, I would say. Okay. Now let's go to the center of the cradle of French America, the cradle of the city of Quebec as well. Place Royale, Royal Place. We'll meet now the King Louis XIV.
Ice sculptures. Pretty cool.
Yeah, he's the priest. That guy. He's the emperor, or okay. Take next stairway on your left, on your right there. Let me show you that place. This is the last stop. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is the last stop. Let me show you, give you a few explanation here. This is now the nicest district in Quebec, I would say. Nicest street, nicest restaurant, not the nicest, one of the nicest places. That street won the first prize in 2014. The nicest street in Canada here. We call that street the Little Champlain Street. We won that award. This is a commercial district, restaurants, nice boutiques as well, there's a theater as well. And it wasn't that nice years ago, obviously. Years ago it was that ugly, I would say, when poor, coming from Ireland, got here, would establish here in the lower town, had no money to get in the upper town, obviously, would establish in this part of the city, at the bottom of the cliff, which is very dangerous. They had some big landslides over the years. The big one in 1889 killed 45 people there. So houses were all destroyed by the landslide. And that breakneck stairway is there for a long time. If you want a copy, do you have a copy of that? If you'd like to have a copy of that, you send me an email. My email is, you remember that? Email at michel.guide. Very easy. Okay, email at michel.guide. I'll get your email. I can send you that photo if you want. So this is a nice, if you're looking for nice souvenirs, this is a place here. If you're looking for t-shirts and key rings, you can find them all around. Awesome. Nice souvenirs, higher prices, obviously you get here in that district. This is a cooperative for about 25 years. Okay, you have the funicular, you know, the elevator to the upper town. We just started at the top of the funicular on the boardwalk. If you're gonna get there, it costs $2.25 to $2.50 approximately. You get there, it takes minutes. Don't take pictures within the cabin. The nice view is at the top anyway. Okay, this house was built by Louis Joliet. Louis Joliet, the founder of the Mississippi. He was born in Quebec City, discovered the Mississippi, and he was given an island as a gift. Can you get closer, please? He was given an island by the King Louis XIV when he discovered the Mississippi. But when he got to his island, about 2 days in a plane from here, he used to paddle to that island along Anticosti Island. You know that island? Anticosti Island in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, next to close to Newfoundland. He used to paddle to that place. He got lost at sea in 1700. Look at this, Louis Joliet. My last image here. He made that nice map of North America in 1650 approximately. Look at that. The Great Lakes don't look great. You know, you remember the other map I showed you? The Great Lakes are better. So Louis Joliet made that map, and the island he was given is not even on the map. It probably explains why he got lost at sea. His own island was not on his own map. Okay, so this is pretty much what I had to say today. So we started from the lower town, the upper town, going to the lower town. Trail of French America is right here, and that would be it. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Bonjour, bonjour.
Thank you.
Miller, Jeannette, pardon. Salut, Jeannette. Bye bye. So I hope you enjoyed the tour.
Great.
This was my first tour of 2015, so I had to remember all these details. Probably forgot a few. But I probably give you a lot of details you won't remember anyway. I know that. I just made 5 tours in Mexico City. Forgot all I just learned weeks ago. So, but I hope you enjoyed the tour. That was the point. Yeah. I enjoyed being with you. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm here. I can answer your questions. If you are looking for restaurants, you have some on that street or on that street which is parallel to that one. There is a few stairways going to Champlain Boulevard. This is Little Champlain. This is Champlain Boulevard, parallel more or less along the river.
Where do you get the tickets to go up the...
Right there.
Ah, c'est beau, c'est bien comme ça. C'est très beau. Ah, wow, c'est beau.
You really want it?
I don't know. If we're allowed. Yeah.
We are. You want to get some lunch? You had your
probably couldn't eat because
you had your McGriddle
breads. Yeah,
you had
like
the
5 different kinds of bread.
I could eat something.
I'll go record a team over there.
We're having lunch at the, I have no idea how you say that, but I'm probably going to get fish and chips.
Look, actual bottles of Coke. That's cool.
Yes. You don't see that very often.
No,
No.
I'm tired from that walking tour. But now we're gonna have fish and chips.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Great.
Yeah, Quebec City is beautiful. It really is. So, a very cultural city for Canada. For anywhere, really. So, that's all I gotta say for the moment.
Okay. Fish and chips at a Quebec restaurant. That was a great lunch. About $20 plus a $3 tip for fish chips, Coke, and a cup of tea.
St. John's Gate. My favorite gate.
We're just heading out to find something to eat for dinner before we retire for the night.
Yeah.
Somebody lost a bicycle. Here's where we're having dinner. It's a chicken place mainly, but you're having... What are you having?
Chicken.
Oh, you're having chicken too. Awesome. It's pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take me quite a while to eat this.
It looks spicy too.
It's good. I ordered spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Have you ever had pate?
Nope. Don't even know what it is.
Oh, pate is like it's like a meaty spread almost.
Ah.
Or no, it doesn't sound very good, but it actually is really good. I haven't had it for years. You spread it on crackers or something like that.
Okay.
Is he gonna do
I just saw that they had some in there. My parents used to buy it, and I would eat it when I was a kid. I haven't had it in years. I forgot it existed.
The moon's out. Oh well. I'm going to end today's video here, so good night everyone. God bless.
Good night.